Welcome, everyone, to the Courageous Truth Podcast. This week, I want to share some thoughts on being a righteous dissident. I want to take a look at some thoughts around standing up against tyranny and how the church should respond in this crazy hour, especially with the mandates and the vaccine getting harder and harder and harder on so many different people. And I understand everybody's at a different place, but I'm hoping to shed some light on those of us who want to take a stand for being courageous and not backing down against the bully tactics of the radical left. I hope this episode blesses you. It was a lot of fun to produce. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Courageous Truth Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the Courageous Truth Podcast, where we strive to live courageously through the lens of Scripture and build courageous lives in a world that is driven by fear. Your host is a proud parent, a proud pastor, a proud business owner, and a proud American. Tune in today for your dose of courageous truth. And now, your host, Eric Lundberg.
Welcome, everyone, to the Courageous Truth Podcast. As always, I am honored and excited that you have chosen to spend a little bit of time with me today. I want to start out with a scripture out of Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 2. It says, "When the righteous increase, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people groan." There is a lot of groaning going on in our nation, in our neighborhoods, in our communities. I just got the Pierce County general election ballot general election voters pamphlet in the mail today. I would encourage every single one of you, if you're in Washington State, if you are in, whatever state you're in, go through this. This is a very important election coming up. For me, I'm looking at school district number 403. That is the Bethel School District. It is very important that you go through and you read up on every single one of the names that are on the ballot. Whether you're going to vote for them or not, you want to know who's running, and then if they win, you want to know about them, and you want to have their contact information. So now's a good time to start emailing the representatives in your school district, local officials, start getting to know who they are. Elections have consequences. Local elections matter. And are they going to stand up against tyranny, or are they going to double down and support tyranny? So we're seeing a lot of tyranny coming, obviously, from the federal government. We're seeing it come from our governor in Washington State, and maybe your governor wherever you're at, unless you're one of those people who experiences what they call freedom in maybe Texas or Montana or other places around the nation. But for those of us who live in a red state, a liberal state, we are being attempted to be oppressed. So I think that it's very important that we get these pamphlets, we read up on it, we focus, and we start voting. And we let everybody we know who is registered to vote. If you have a senior in high school and they're just turning 18, now's the time to register them to vote and teach them how to vote. We need to raise up a new generation of voters that understands the consequences of voting and how to actually vote, how to look at a good candidate and what they believe, not just Republican, Democrat. Look at someone. Are they going to do what they say they're going to do? Where did they get educated? What's their life's view? What is their viewpoint? Where have they worked? Different things like that will tell you a lot about a person, and do we want that person leading in our communities? So just want to remind everybody of that. November 2nd, big day. Make sure you participate in your local elections. As I've been thinking this week about a lot of different things and seeing what has happened primarily with Southwest Airlines, I have been unbelievably encouraged. I think that what has happened with Southwest Airlines is a beautiful, now I feel bad for anyone who was stranded, but in the long run, I think what has happened at Southwest Airlines is a beautiful thing. They had to cancel almost 2,000 flights in one weekend. That's a lot of flights, ladies and gentlemen. That's a lot of money lost. That's a lot of unhappy customers that are going to other airlines because workers, pilots, airline attendants, all them walked off the job, or they did a sick-in or whatever it's called. And I want to say that takes a great amount of courage for these people to do. It's an amazing, beautiful stand that they are taking against these unwholesome, unethical, regardless of their religious viewpoints, horrible mandates. But there's some lessons that we can learn in this, and lessons we need to learn, I believe, as Christians and as the church. Number one lesson we need to learn as Christians is that there is strength in numbers. I don't care what church you go to. I don't care how many people there are. But if you rally around the correct causes, righteous causes as believers, you're going to make an impact. We talk about so often, we want to affect culture. We want to change culture. We want to be in the world. We want to make change in society. Well, now we're in a place where we can take righteous stands. We can take stands as believers and be vocal about the difference between right and wrong. Here's the thing that we also got to understand, and this is where I believe that we can turn the tide in a lot of things. Money talks. Why did Southwest Airlines rescind their mandates? Because money talks. When you lose that much money in one weekend, money talks. Now, I know a lot of people, this could rub people wrong, but I really believe that the only way we are going to see change in our school districts, because, by the way, we've got the FBI and our horrible, horrible fake president or whoever working together to label parents who disrupt school board meetings as domestic terrorists. If that isn't the most insulting, if that isn't the most evil plot to, again, say either consciously or subconsciously that the state has more rights over a child than the parent does, I don't know what does. To say we're domestic terrorists for standing up for our children, you have got to be out of your mind, but that's the world we live in. And it's time to stand up in numbers, and it's time for Christians to get courageous and start taking a stand and leading in this area. Because I'm going to tell you this. If the church doesn't stand up now, if the church shrinks back and just wants to get along and give up their rights and just play quiet and play church like we've always done, there is going to be nobody to lead. No one to lead. We are called to lead. We are called to establish the kingdom of God. And there's a risk involved with that, and it might risk a reputation, but we have got to take a stand. But like I said before, I believe the only way we are going to see change in our school district and get these school boards and get the superintendent of the state to listen to us is if we start pulling our kids out of school in mass. Hundreds of thousands of students pulled out every year. So I'm going to do if we pull out 100,000 students, if we pull out 100,000 students in our school districts across the state, K through 12, if we pull out just 100,000 students, that is over $1.7 million in funds for the state school district. They will listen to that very, very well. Costs about $15,000 to $19,000 to educate one student per year. We pull out 100,000. That's only 100,000 students. We pull them out, 100,000 students in this state this year. They're going to get the message and they're going to start to change because you know what? There's no pressure on them. They're not afraid of students, parents at school board meetings. I go to those school board meetings. They just sleep while you talk. The only reason I go is because I want to support the parents that are there. But I'm realizing the only way they're going to know they're going to create any kind of change and even listen to us and put pressure on their superintendent is if we pull our students out. That's it. And if we can't do that, then nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. We also got to remember, money talks and power is fleeting. The people in power only have the power that we give them, that we surrender to them. They order us about, put mandates, restrictions, and it only works because we go along with it. It only works because we go along with it. I mean, When the first mask mandate came out, I was so mad. I hated masks. I don't even care anymore about masks. I never wear it. I go to the stores without them. Every now and then they'll ask, and I just either put it on or leave. I don't even fight it. The only power that they have is the power that we give them. And guess what? The people making the mandates, they don't even interact with us as the people. They hide behind desks in really nice, elegant places somewhere out in Washington or in their fine homes. You know what? They have the businesses do the dirty work for them. That tells you what kind of cowards they are. But power is fleeting. If we stood up to them en masse, if we stood up in mass and just said no like Southwest Airlines did, we would see some change. The time is now more than ever. As Christians, as believers, and especially as pastors, we have to become righteous dissidents. Righteous dissidents. Disobeying evil is actually righteous. We talk about in Christian circles denying your flesh. What does that mean? I don't understand that. That's a weird saying. What it means is denying the sin nature inside of you, disobeying what your sin nature wants to do, and following what's righteous. We need to disobey tyranny. We need to disobey evil. We need to disobey control and manipulation. Disobeying them. Dissidence is warfare. Dissidence is warfare. Because what's happening right now is you're seeing a massive push towards a one world government. Massive push. The Great Reset, Klaus Schwab, all these different ideas. And maybe in the next podcast I'll get to this, but the push towards a one world government. Why should we be concerned? Because then there's no boundaries around righteousness. And whoever the World Economic Forum or whoever these higher ups who are making these rules and pushing towards this government is the one who sets ethics, who sets morality, who sets economics, who sets all these different things. That's when we begin to lose borders, we begin to lose good ideas, we begin to lose righteousness, and we have to submit on a global scale to whatever it is they want to do. And I'm looking now at there is going to be a mass exodus from the medical field. And this is what they want. It's very obvious that they're trying to destroy everything so that we have nowhere else to turn but to the government when this thing implodes. This Build Back Better strategy has nothing to do with Joe Biden. That's just something he says. But Build Back Better means destroy everything and then build it back the way this one world government wants, the way the Global Economic Forum or whoever these people are that are pulling the strings are doing. But like I said before, there's a mass exodus going from the medical field. And that's very concerning because we have been taught and conditioned to rely so strongly on pharma, medicine, subscriptions, pharmacies, drugs, so many different things we have learned to become dependent upon. And we are going to see an implosion. I would not be surprised if the stock market crashes very soon because of so many people are losing their jobs over a vaccine that isn't even really a vaccine, isn't even proven yet, and that causes more harm than good, it seems. Some people are having no problems. Many of your people are having horrible problems. Just do your research on it. But what has happened is Big Pharma has captured the heart of those who love to virtue signal, and they love to take the jab because those who take the jab are applauded by the higher-ups, by those who control the media, by those who control the propaganda, and they're patted on the back in front of everybody else and says, look at this person, look at me, look at what a good person I am, look at how considerate I am towards my neighbor. And what sickens me is that churches buy in to that. When churches are like, everybody needs to get the vaccine, and you applaud those who get it. Because what you're doing is you're teaching people to submit their bodies to the government, and you can look at what that government power has done. As Christians, here's what we're going to have to learn. And I'm just telling you this right now. Christians are going to have to learn first aid. They're going to have to learn health care. They're going to have to learn how to take care of each other physically if there is an accident, a broken leg, we're going to have to learn how to do that. Because state of Washington, University of Washington came out very, very recently and says they won't do any donor transplants unless the recipient is vaccinated. In other words, you can't get the life-saving organ that you need that you might have been on a list for unless you're vaccinated. You don't see the manipulation in that. You don't see the control in that. You don't see the agenda behind that. Wake up, ladies and gentlemen. Wake up. We are going to have to learn first aid. Number 2, we're going to have to learn how to sustain a food source. We're going to have to bring back the underground art of the potluck on a grander scale, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to learn to stand together to make sure that we have food, sustenance, make sure that we have everything we need. How are we going to communicate? They start censoring. Censorship is real. Censorship is real, ladies and gentlemen. When the church starts to throw a fuss, they're going to silence us and come down harder, more and more and more and more, using this virus as an excuse. Eric, you're being an alarmist. No, I'm not being an alarmist. I'm being discerning and understanding that these patterns that we see are where it's going. Because if the government can get rid of the church and control the church, who's going to stand against them? Because the government wants to play God. The government wants to kill God. The government wants to be God. And it's true, it comes from sociopaths and state offices nationwide. So we're going to need to learn first aid, like I said. So now we can see, and as I close this out, the importance of being a dissident. It is time to be Christian dissidents. It's not even about disobeying mandates. It's about rejecting ideologies, rejecting the notion to conform to make it easy. It's going to be some hard days, ladies and gentlemen. I'm planting a church in the middle of this muck and mire. There's going to be some hard days that come ahead of us. But we have got to begin to build our faith muscles, our courage muscles, our strength muscles, and learn to stand up against ideologies such as this. And also, as Christian business owners, we're going to have to learn to create employment opportunities where we go under the radar, where those who didn't want to get the vaccine now have to start over. It breaks my heart, nurses and doctors that spent 7-8 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans to go into the medical profession, only to have that ripped away from them over a personal medical choice, over ethics. I mean, we're losing all the ethics in our healthcare system. And who are they going to bring in? The National Guard? Who are they going to bring in to replace all these people? Robots? Were they going to find people off the streets? What are they going to do? It's going to be a big mess, ladies and gentlemen. But we're going to stand strong. We're going to take care of each other. Okay, we're going to be bright and shining lights in a dark world. We're not going to panic. We're not going to freak out. We're going to keep our eyes fixed on Jesus. We're going to intercede. We're going to engage in spiritual warfare. And we are not going to comply with ridiculous mandates and ideologies. So that's all the time I have for today. Hopefully it's given you some food for thought, some things to think about, some things to pray about, some things to consider. So God bless you, and keep taking a courageous stand for the truth. See you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to the Courageous Truth podcast. We live in a world that is in desperate need of courage and in desperate need of truth. Our prayer is that this podcast will equip and inspire you to live courageously for your family, your community, your God, and for your country. Be courageous in your stand for truth in a world that is completely abandoned. See you next time right here at the Courageous Truth podcast. Remember, truth requires courage.